Hello and welcome to another Wednesday night of miniature painting. Hello Modifian, so nice to see you already. We have some interesting stuff for you tonight, as I've mentioned a few times in the past streams. Me and some of the other online miniature painters or streamers from Denmark have decided to give ourselves a small challenge. Specifically, what we want to do is to test out the Army Painter starter set, and I will show you here. What we have here is 9 paints and 1 quick shade all the way on the right, and we'll be using those paints and only those paints to actually paint a single miniature. We are allowed to use normal priming like airbrush, rattle cans, whatever, because priming is usually something you do not with your paints, but so I've chosen one of the miniatures from the setting box, what's it called, Garrix Reavers. I think they're in the original core box from the Shadespire edition, Shadespire version expansion, the first edition of Warm Underworld. So the plan is to paint him during today and on on Sunday, using only the 9 paints you actually see here, plus the strong tone, and only using this brush that comes with the starter paint set. But we've given ourselves a little bit of leeway, so we've allowed ourselves to use one more brush for painting this. And I'm gonna go with a 000. Simply made that choice before the starter brushes. We'll see how it goes. So the miniature has been primed. I've put my paints through a paint shaker just to get them properly shook up, but other than that, this is just a plain starter set. And because I wanted to test a little bit more, I've also bought the Army Painter's wet palette, which you can see featured in the background here on the picture, and I'm gonna try that to see how it works. So before I start painting the miniature, I'll actually just take a quick look at the palette to see how it is. I've already sort of primed it or started up with adding the water and yeah, just getting it ready for painting. So without further ado, what we have here, I just zoom out a little bit. We have the Army Painter. See the logo on the front. Now this wet palette also functions as a brush holder, so you can have your stuff in here. They will be loose, there's nothing to keep them in place, but then again, it's a wet palette, you're not really supposed to be also have a small room up here. I think that it's kind of a nice addition, but I don't see myself using it much. Maybe if I wanted to bring my paints on, I don't know, vacation or whatever, but having the wet palette is can get a little bit icky once it gets all painted up, and if you leave your paint in there and you tilt it, they'll get smeared, I think. But anyway, it's there, a holder. I'm gonna put that aside for the moment since we won't be needing it. And then we have the wet palette itself. It has a very nice low form factor, I think. But one thing that kind of sort of worried me a little bit when I saw it first, apparently it's not a huge thing. Well, actually it is, I can see. It's this crease down the middle. This crease comes from the foam sponge, whatever, that goes at the bottom of the wet palette. When it came, the wet palette came with it with a quite a visible and noticeable crease. Now I placed sort of the ridge of the crease downwards towards the bottom, so I now have sort of a valley running through my wet palette. You should be able to see it even on the camera, and I think that's not that well thought out, but anyway, we have the wet palette. It is moist. There's a little bit of extra water in the bottom, but not a lot, so we probably need to add just a little bit more for good measure. Now, in addition to just trying this out and painting it and all that stuff, I also decided that since I have actually worked quite a bit with army painters, I come to the conclusion that not really, I don't feel like keeping, hanging on to the starter set once I'm done with this test. So if you show up on this stream, follow my channel, this stream or the stream on Sunday, and if you at some point write in the chat that you want to be entered in the competition for I don't know, this starter set, then I will draw a random winner after the streams, and one of you will get a chance to win the entire paint set. Depending on the quality of the wet palette, throw that one in as well. If it's really, really good, I'm probably gonna cling on to it myself. That's at least that was the original thing I told everyone, but I also kind of think that it's more fun to paint if you have a wet palette. So if you're gonna get a starter set, you should also get the wet palette. So sign up in chat, follow my channel, and you'll be in the draw for both the starter set and the wet palette. So without further ado, let's take a look at this guy here. Now, we have a limited number of paints available. We have some brown, aptly named leather brown, which will go, I'm gonna go for on the boots with that. And then the main colors we have here are these four. So we have a green, red, and yellow. And we're gonna have some fun with and stick to the main colors, I think, but we'll see how it goes. But I will start with his boots. So shake your paints. Also, my webcam has decided to go all bonkers on me. Hang on a second while I try to fix that.